This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
What's going on, everybody, guys and girls? Welcome back to another edition of the SmackDown review right here on the WWE Podcast. As always, I'm one of the hosts of this show, and today the only host of this show, John Carrasco, is out today. He is in Dallas spending Thanksgiving with some family, and I totally understand that. John spending some family time is definitely much needed, especially when you have the opportunity. We get a little bit of an extended weekend here, a little bit of a 4-day weekend, which is pretty rare around these parts. So I'm definitely looking forward to breaking down this episode of SmackDown. Not going to be as long. Typically, whenever you go from from two people talking to only one person talking, just naturally, the episodes seem to condense a little bit, but we're still going to get through this. A nice go-home show here on SmackDown that took place on November 25th, 2022 from Providence, Rhode Island. Like I said, the go-home show. There were some, important matches when you look at, the World Cup semifinals matches that happened today. And then, of course, the Advantage match for War Games. That was very important as well. So this was definitely a noteworthy episode of SmackDown, and we're going to break it down in chronological order and then go through the War Games picks for Survivor Series and actually the entire Survivor Series card. It just seemed, with how they're putting over War Games, it feels like it's taken away from Survivor Series a little bit. And I'm not trying to, make that seem like it's a negative twist at all. Like, I'm not complaining about that. It's just how I feel. Like, going into it, I forget that tomorrow's Survivor Series. I remember that it's War Games. I remember that we're getting a couple War Games matches. But for some reason, I guess the Survivor Series pay-per-view, the Survivor Series season as a whole, seems to be taking a little bit of a backseat, but that's okay. I would rather it take a backseat to a War Games theme than a brand versus brand, imaginary brand supremacy theme that they've kind of done for the past handful of years. So I'm all for this change right here. And I'm excited for this pay-per-view. I really am. I think it's going to be pretty entertaining start to finish. There's a lot of good matches on it. I think Triple H is doing a good job when it comes to these pay-per-views. He's making them feel special. He's making them have that pay-per-view feel, which they haven't in a very long time, just with all of the gimmick pay-per-views. But you've heard the rumors that those are starting to, or those might be going away. He's possibly getting rid of all of those gimmick pay-per-views. And if that's true, then I will definitely be very excited about that. But let's go ahead and get into this episode of SmackDown, like I said, by myself here. So we're going to roll through this bad boy segment by segment. And, of course, this one, the show started off with Damage Control. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch the first 10 minutes of this whenever everybody else did. We got to watch it just a little bit delayed because college football was on where I was watching, where DJ Kuzma was watching, and several others in the Discord chat whenever we were breaking it down, or at least the beginning, we were kind of complaining, like, what the hell's going on here? Why aren't we watching SmackDown? Of course, Grim Reaper, watching overseas, he was like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. Like, I'm watching it just fine. But eventually it came on. It was just 10 minutes late. I thought that was a little bit weird, but the episode was able to go on without any hiccups after that. And like I said, this one started with Damage Control. They go out there, they run their mouth a little bit. Of course, their opponents come out, led by Bianca Belair, and they reveal their fifth member for War Games. And it's none other than Becky Lynch, the man. Big time Bex, or I guess box office Bex now if you look at her new shirt, which is actually a pretty good shirt. I saw that online somewhere, but I think Becky Lynch being added to this team immediately makes them the heavy favorites. Just the intrigue and the anticipation of Becky Lynch coming back to this role in general, her being an obvious babyface, I think it's good for her, and I think that her presence alone is going to propel that team to victory, and that's just a little bit of an early tip for my picks a little bit later. I'm going to try not to do that throughout the duration of this show, but I went ahead and did it earlier. I'm not going to take it out of the episode. We're just going to roll with it here. Becky Lynch is going to make Team Bianca Belair and company become victorious. I'm just going to get that one out of the way right now. Up next, we get a semifinals match for the SmackDown World Cup. This one between Butch and Santos Escobar. Zelina Vega on commentary. She did a damn good job. She helped make the match a little bit more like... It's hard to say enjoyable because when you look at these two guys in the ring, they were doing a damn good job of that themselves. But just the segment by itself, it went from just purely a wrestling match to development, I guess you can say, growth of Legado del Fantasma as a faction, led by Zelina Vega as the mouthpiece there. And I feel like that's a really good role for her, and she's going to make that group a hell of a lot better. But during this match, as it was going on the Jumbotron, you see Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens, the two partners for War Games with the Brawling Brutes, who were ringside helping Butch, or I guess just supporting Butch. You see them at a disadvantage getting jumped by the Bloodline backstage. So of course, Butch says, no, you guys go help him. He sends Sheamus and Ridge Holland. Sorry, his name was slipping away for a second there. Sends Sheamus and Ridge Holland back there to go try to help out. That left Butch at a disadvantage number-wise with all members of Legado del Fantasma still at ringside, and you guessed it, Santos Escobar gets the win and advances to the finals, which will be next week on SmackDown, and his opponent will be revealed a little bit later in the show. But yeah, that was pretty... I don't want to say expected because I really didn't know who was going to win this match going into it. I truly had no idea. But one thing I will say is that just from the entrances, him coming out second and just the feel, the vibe that you get, I really like their theme song, the aesthetic that you see, them as a faction, Legado del Fantasma that is, with Zelina Vega there. It felt like he was going to win this match. Like it really did. I was like, okay, here we go. That's kind of who I was leaning towards. And once they got... I guess they left ringside, his partners that is, I was pretty convinced that Santos Escobar was going to get the win here, and he did just that, so we'll see how he fares next week in the finals of this World Cup tournament. But up next, Bray Wyatt comes to the ring, cuts a promo. His entrance was probably about 2 or 3 minutes longer than his actual promo. That thing's long, man. It gives Roman Reigns a run for its money, and at least Roman Reigns' theme song is really like upbeat from the beginning. You know, the music drops and it's kind of you're into it. It just has that feel. Bray Wyatt's song takes a while to get going. Like it's really slow, drawn out, and once it gets to the part, you guys know what I'm talking about, the real melody part where the crowd can kind of sing along, that's when it gets really interesting. But up until that, man, it's a long entrance. He really drags that thing out, and I felt like that's a way for them to obviously waste time, but also just try to put over these wrestlers and get them really, I guess, connected with the fans is a way to put it. But during this promo, he actually mentions The Fiend as a way of saying, like, that's all people want to see, and that's really not who he wants to be anymore. But I thought it was interesting, him actually saying, like, people want to see The Fiend, they want to see the monster, they want to see me be that person, but that's not who I am anymore. And the crowd actually booed that. You could tell that they really didn't want to see a babyface version of Bray, or maybe just the hardcore Fiend fans that were in attendance really let their opinion be heard here. He also begins to say that he wasn't the one who attacked LA Knight last week, but he's interrupted by Uncle Howdy. And it's those interesting video packages they've been showing where it just rarely shows Uncle Howdy. It's really just a bunch of random different placements of times in Bray Wyatt's life or whatever. But at one point, a number showed up, 888-280-3999. And if you call that number, you get Bray Wyatt's psychiatrist saying how he is a danger to others as well as himself. So that right there, just them putting that in there, not everybody's going to call that. I didn't even call that. I got that off Twitter, and I'm taking their word for it because clearly, I mean, they're likely whoever posted that's a diehard fan. They did the work of actually researching that. So I'll go with it, and I believe that. But that's just interesting, and it's nice to see those small touches that 8 out of 10 fans aren't even going to acknowledge. But those 2 that do, they're going to make it worth it for them, and they're going to make this storyline mean all the more as it continues to grow. And it is one of my favorite parts of SmackDown on a week-to-week basis, I will say. Just the way that they're doing this really has me hooked here, and I'm looking forward to seeing it continue on SmackDown. But let's see, Hit Row and Viking Raiders up next. This one isn't very long. Viking Raiders' sheer physicality gets them the edge and the win here in this match. They are accompanied by Valhalla, however you want to pronounce it. It is Sarah Logan, obviously. We referenced that last week, but it is confirmed this week She has a real unique look with like a crown that's deer horns or something like that. I really don't know what they're going for there, but hey, she gets a nice fresh coat of paint. Another stint here in WWE with actually paired with her husband. So I'm sure she's going to enjoy this run nonetheless. I guess just the experience and getting a chance to do this is going to be worth it. Like, there's nothing that could make this end up a failure. I assume that she's at the point to where, like, wins and losses really don't matter to her. She has enough losses during her first run with WWE that's pretty much just soured at this point. She's pretty much just concerned with having a good time and, enjoying herself at work and on the road. And I bet that she's doing just that with this new version of her. So shout out to the Viking Raiders for picking up a win. Up next, they show the video WWE exclusive of Dominic and Rhea Ripley going to the Mysterio house on Thanksgiving Day, which shout out to all of you guys. I hope you all had a damn good Thanksgiving. And enjoy Black Friday if you participate in anything like that. I made a run to Target earlier today. It's Black Friday when I'm recording this, and it was the worst decision I could have possibly made. I got the hell out of there as soon as I possibly could, and yeah, I got back home and said I'm home for the day. I'm not going out in that nonsense again. It's pretty crazy how wild Black Friday actually gets at those retail stores just like that. But anyways, this video package, Dominic and Rhea Ripley, they show up at the Mysterio house. Their mom doesn't really want them to come inside. Ray doesn't want them to come inside, but they don't take no for an answer. They barge in, knocking Ray on his back. He calls Rhea the B word. It gets blurred out or bleeped out, whatever. Dominic starts looking at family pictures there, kind of just sitting on the counter or on this little vanity, whatever it is. It's like a dresser, I guess. I don't know, honestly. I didn't really pay attention to what they were on. I was watching him pick up the pictures and trying to see what the pictures were. Clearly just family portraits. He sets them down and then eventually grabs one of them on Monday Night Raw or something like that, and then he smashes it right on Rey Mysterio's injured leg and then drags him by that leg over there to the living room and does a little bit more damage. They beat the hell out of him. Rhea Ripley, I guess, wanted to enjoy the Mysterio family Thanksgiving for this year. I don't really know what else was the reason for them showing up, but they did. Made their presence felt, and poor Rey Mysterio getting the hell beat out of him on Thanksgiving when you're just trying to enjoy some damn cheesecake. That's my favorite dessert when it comes to Thanksgiving. I love me some cheesecake, some homemade cheesecake. Oh man, I can get going just thinking about it right now, especially with a nice cup of chocolate milk. I'm not sure if any of you guys like that combination, but chocolate milk for me, it goes with damn near anything. I love chocolate milk, and I'm a big advocate for it. So yeah, I'll definitely drink it with some cheesecake after a nice Thanksgiving meal. But anyways, just wanted to plug you guys in. If you didn't already see that, I'm sure that was circulating the Twitter waves on Thanksgiving Day whenever all that happened. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention that here on the show. Up next, we get LA Knight. He is attacked backstage. He does have a little bit of a backstage interview with somebody, but with Megan, I believe it is, but it doesn't, or maybe it's Kayla Braxton. I'm really not 100% sure who the interviewer was. But a little bit later, he's attacked again backstage. You don't know if this is Uncle Howdy. I mean, Bray Wyatt said it's not him, so I really don't know what to expect here, who it is that's attacking LA Knight. Like I said, very interested, very plugged in on this, and I'm really, intrigued to see how it continues. I'll say that for any time that I have a chance to talk about this current program that's going on, I'm going to reference how I'm excited to see it continue because Triple H is at the helm, and because I like slow burns, I like really detailed storylines, and you could tell by the phone number reference, by all of the other things they have going on, and obviously the two people who are involved with the program, LA Knight and Bray Wyatt, you could expect it to be extremely entertaining all the way to the end. But anyways, let's get back to some actual wrestling here. The final semifinals match in the SmackDown World Cup. This is Ricochet versus Braun Strowman. 5'9", 215 versus 6'8", 235. They did the tell of the tape before this match started, and there were so many lopsided numbers that favored Braun Strowman. And right there, I kind of had a little hunch. They're showing that for a reason. They wouldn't want to, expose the differences in these two guys' sizes if Braun Strowman was going to win, because then it would make his win seem like it was, obvious and that it should have happened. The fact that they showed us made me feel immediately, okay, Ricochet might have a chance at winning this bad boy. The fact that he came out first, they showed him pointing at that crown or that World Cup trophy. they really exposed that, or they exaggerated that a lot. I just kind of had a little bit of a feeling. I don't know. And I don't want to say I called it because I didn't. This is just kind of how the match was playing out. I had these feelings that was going to happen, but sure enough, as the match is going on, Gunther walks out, causing a little bit of a distraction. Imperium is with him, but Gunther comes out by himself down the ramp. And Braun Strowman just starts staring at him. They have a little bit of a face-off there, and it does. Like I said, it causes the distraction, allowing Ricochet to get a roll-up win. And then he advances to the finals as well to face Santos Escobar next week for the finals in the SmackDown World Cup on Fox. They definitely kind of reference that on Fox. You know that they've been doing that a lot there. But after this match is over, Imperium then puts a 3-on-1 beatdown on Braun Strowman until Ricochet decides to come help. But Imperium in the numbers game still reigns supreme, and they get their hands raised, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. Not literally their hand raised, but they're the ones who are left standing at the end of this encounter, looking strong as ever. So we'll see if Braun Strowman and Gunther ends up being a thing down the line. If Gunther can retain this championship whenever he has to face the inevitable winner of either Ricochet or Santos Escobar, you do expect him to be favored against both of those wrestlers. I do like Santos' chances a little bit more, given that we've already seen Ricochet with that belt, and Gunther's the one who took it from him. So we've kind of been there, done that. Whereas Santos Escobar, it at least has that what-if factor. You know, you really don't know exactly what to expect in that one. But either way, I think Braun Strowman and Gunther are on a collision course. You could see that match possibly having the making of like a WrestleMania feel to it. I don't know if it'll drag on that long to last all the way to April, but if not, I mean, I don't know, Royal Rumble, maybe something like that. Either way, expect these two guys past the cross at some point down the line. Up next, things get really interesting. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have a little bit of a backstage encounter right outside of the Bloodline's locker room. That's a key point in all of this because Sami Zayn, beautiful camera work, is shown like hiding with a cracked open door where you could see him. You could tell that he's watching and he shouldn't be listening, but he's curious and he's being nosy and he wants to see what they're talking about. And it's Kevin Owens insisting that Sami Zayn, quote unquote, strikes first and turns on the Bloodline before they turn on him. And, that conversation ends. Sami Zayn is left there basically speechless. And then as he tries to go in, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso walks out, and he questions him about where he's been. You know, why were you late? We could have used your help earlier during that backstage brawl, obviously, that I referenced during the first match that happened tonight. And Sami Zayn says that he was late. He texted Jimmy Uso. He already cleared that up, why he was late, and he just got here. And Jay said, you just got here, so have you talked to anybody else since you've been here? He says, no, I mean, I'm talking to you right now. Does that count? I mean, I haven't talked to anybody. What are we talking about? And clearly, this is setting up a little bit of a wedge, a little bit of a fork, or whatever you want to use, whatever expression you want to use, in between these guys, which there was already one there. There's been one there from day one with these two. But now there's actually someone on the outside kind of trying to, cause trouble in paradise with the Bloodline, trying to give Jey Uso, trying to validate his concern and give him vindication for feeling the way that he's been feeling for this entire time, and that's that you cannot trust Sami Zayn, that he doesn't belong in the Bloodline, despite the crowd thinking that, despite every other member of the Bloodline basically being okay with Sami Zayn and where he's at in the Bloodline. Jey Uso is the one who's like, this doesn't sit well with me. And now, those concerns and those doubts aren't going anywhere. Seeing this happen right here, witnessing it firsthand, he's going to continue to try to catch Sami Zayn, slipping. He's going to try to catch him doing something along the lines of, maybe it could happen tomorrow night at War Games or tonight by the time you're listening to this. You really never know exactly what's next with these guys, but something's coming. And this is another thing here of SmackDown exclusive that is very interesting. And that alone can keep you hooked going forward and really get you going. Or at the very least, excited to watch SmackDown on a weekly basis. But anyways, let's go ahead and continue on here. We get a really long War Games video package. This thing was like 6-7 minutes long, I think. That could be exaggerated a little bit, but it really felt, a long time. They showed highlights from damn near every single other War Games match that has happened. They explained the rules thoroughly and, really get you going. Like I said, this is why it feels like more of a War Games pay-per-view than Survivor Series. And this is just kind of like Survivor Series clearly being ranked number 4 out of the big 4 pay-per-views. And it's just the one that they experiment with every year. Like, let's do some brand versus brand stuff. No, let's do some War Game stuff. Who knows what they're going to have next year? It might be Cyber Sunday. You never know. Or Cyber Saturday now, probably how they would do it. But either way, I still love Survivor Series, and I will definitely continue to have excitement for this pay-per-view, leading all the way up till tomorrow. Some more backstage stuff happened next. Shotzi Blackheart getting interviewed along with Raquel right when she's in the middle of a sentence. She gets attacked by, you guessed it, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. And this is a little bit of a brutal attack because they get Raquel Rodriguez's arm, stick it in, I guess, a little bit of like a bin or whatever. Maybe like I don't even know. You know exactly what this thing is. They're what people get thrown into backstage all the damn time. And they put Raquel's arm in there and slam it shut. The commentary team say that they broke her arm. We saw this happen to Dean Ambrose a few years back. I think it might have been Samoa Joe or somebody did this exact same thing to his arm, and it actually legitimately injured him. Luckily, I don't think it happened to Raquel because she does come out right here, this very next match. We have a quote-unquote handicap match, Shotzi versus Raquel and Ronda, I'm all over the place right now. Shotzi versus Ronda and Shayna. They have a handicap match, and then Raquel eventually comes out and tries to help, but, I mean, she ends up tapping out to Ronda Rousey. It wasn't pretty. Shotzi has a match tomorrow night, or tonight, like I said, at Survivor Series War Games against Ronda Rousey, so we'll see how that match goes. I don't expect it to go well for Shotzi, but they're really setting us up to believe that she doesn't have a chance. Sometimes they like to swerve us, but I don't think they're going to swerve us right now in this spot. Ronda Rousey clearly is the right person to hold this championship, especially heading into a WrestleMania in Los Angeles where, I mean, you know they're going to have all eyes, mainstream, casual fans all over the place watching. So the title is on the right person. We'll see if Shotzi can look good in this loss. Can this loss elevate her? Because that's possible. It definitely can happen. You've seen it happen several times, especially at Survivor Series, whenever people are like the quote-unquote lone survivor and they put on a hell of a show and they last long in the traditional Survivor Series elimination match. And even if their team loses, they could still look like a badass. I reference it all the time in 2003 whenever Shawn Michaels went balls to the wall to try to save Stone Cold's position as the co-general manager on Monday Night Raw. It's your yearly reminder for me to go watch that pay-per-view to get you pumped up for Survivor Series if you haven't seen that. But anyways, I do think that Shotzi Blackheart is in a little bit of a rough spot right now, a little bit of a wrong place at the wrong time, but she does have a chance, and we'll get to the predictions a little bit later in the show, so we can continue on here with SmackDown. And I do believe this is the main event, the Advantage for War Games match, with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre versus the Usos. A pretty long match. Obviously, after about 15 minutes of actual wrestling, a brawl breaks out at ringside after Sami Zayn gets away with a little bit of interference. He just jumps up while, I believe, one of the members of the Brawling Brutes, I think it might be Sheamus, he was on the top rope, he pushes him off. And then obviously that sets up a brawl on the outside of the ring. And the Brutes do get the win and the War Games advantage after Sami Zayn gets ejected, quote unquote, because he never really leaves. Because he's bickering with the referee, and then Kevin Owens eventually hits a stunner on Jey Uso while the ref isn't looking, setting Sheamus up to hit a bro kick and steal the win here. So they do get the advantage at War Games. And Sami Zayn, this happened, a few months back, whenever on a typical basis he was trying to help and it would just some way or another end up costing them the match. They're starting to kind of, play that out again. Especially seeing it happen with, Kevin Owens backstage. Now the microscope is kind of on Sami Zayn in these situations. So he better not slip. Otherwise, his status as the honorary Uso might be in jeopardy. But that does do it for the SmackDown portion of the SmackDown review. Now we're going to go ahead and get into my quick predictions here for the Survivor Series War Games card, which is actually pretty juicy, if I must say so myself. Let's go ahead and start with the one-on-one match between AJ Styles and Finn Balor. I'm going to go ahead and go with Finn here, just because what they have going on with the Judgment Day, I guess. This feeling like a leader of a faction versus a leader of a faction. I have a little bit more faith in the Judgment Day sticking around. I mean, they're kind of forcing it down our throat, but it is what it is. It doesn't matter how you get it. You're getting it one way or the other. And because he just seems like he's going to be around longer than AJ Styles. I know that really doesn't matter whenever you're talking about just a one-on-one match at a pay-per-view, but this one has a long time coming. It's definitely one of the more underrated parts of this entire pay-per-view, but I do have to roll with Finn Balor, although I could feel myself rooting for AJ Styles in this match. Like, my head is saying Finn, but my heart definitely wants AJ to pull out the win here. Next match, United States Championship, triple threat between Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, and Austin Theory. This one's a little bit tough to pick because all these guys feel like the arrow is pointing up. Obviously, Austin Theory is a new character. He is. I mean, we haven't seen him with that selfie stick. He hasn't smiled in weeks. He knows what his job is. He seems fearless. That's one word I could use to describe him here lately. Is he just seems like he isn't scared of anything right now. What's being thrown at him, he knows he has a target on his back, and it almost seems like what they're doing with him in terms of like Kevin Owens putting him down right whenever Vince McMahon left, Triple H kind of burying him, losing his United States Championship. This is all setting up to have a damn good video package of all of his trials and tribulations leading up to whenever he finally does burst through that glass ceiling that we all know was there and it's going to happen. I feel like he's obviously still on the radar. He's still on, the quote-unquote it list for, who the arrow is pointing up. In the coming years, I think Triple H is just as high as him, probably maybe not just as high, but he's probably pretty high on him as Vince McMahon was. So you really don't know what to expect with Theory. I don't expect him to win this match, though. I think Seth Rollins should win. This is a Raw program, so I'm not like as plugged in as like on a week-to-week basis how long any of these guys have been feuding with each other, but I mean, I'm a Seth Rollins guy, so all day I will definitely be rolling with him, but for some reason, Austin Theory definitely has my attention with a possible way to steal this one. But continuing on here, SmackDown Women's Championship, Ronda Rousey versus Shotzi. Kind of tipped my hand a little bit earlier. I don't think Shotzi is going to win this one. Ronda's just in the spot that you want her to be in. Going into the Royal Rumble, it sets it up where a babyface can win the Royal Rumble and chase Ronda Rousey, especially if they're going to pair her with Shayna for the winter / spring or whatever. Like they're going to, the WrestleMania build up and hell, all the way to WrestleMania. Having Shayna Baszler in her corner, it'll make Ronda feel like even more of a threat than she already is. Like she does feel like a credible champion. That's something that Liv Morgan always lacked. Ronda Rousey doesn't lack that at all. So having Shayna Baszler is just like gravy. It's just like icing on the cake, So I do like that dynamic, and I think it's going to pay dividends for Ronda starting this week, or tomorrow night, I guess, with Shotzi and, getting that first win. I believe first win as women's champion. She might have had another one already. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure right off the top of my head. It is late. I am recording this immediately after SmackDown, so my callback isn't necessarily top speed, isn't in mid-season form. But I feel like I am rolling here and doing an okay job getting through this episode, despite not having my co-host John. Shout out to John, by the way, for setting me up to get dunked on last week with my quote-unquote Elton John reference. I completely butchered that. That's on me. It is a little bit before our time. That is one thing that John said, hey, it's all right, it's before our time. But he's the one that brought up the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and, set me up to say the wrong band or artist that is responsible for that. It is the Beatles, so that's on me. I took credit for that, but shout out to the Patreon subscriber who pointed that out, that we had missed that. But anyways, up next, the War Games match for the women, Team Bianca Belair, which is Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Mia Yim, Becky Lynch, and the previously mentioned Bianca versus Damage Control, Bayley, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, and Rhea Ripley and Nikki Cross, the new and improved Nikki Cross. Like I said, I think that Becky Lynch is going to be the addition to this team that's going to catapult them to a victory. It's that simple. I really think it is. I think that her presence in this match would do wonders for this team, and that's exactly what I expect. However, I do know that it would set up for a damn good story. And sometimes wrestling shows like to swerve you. They really do. They like to make you feel like one way. You should be convicted to feel a certain way about a match. And they'll pull the rug out from right underneath you. And they'll make you look like you're an idiot. And you have pie on your face. That's sometimes what they like to do. And it's happened to me several times. But I don't expect that to happen here. And I do expect Team Bianca Belair to get the win here. And that does leave us with the final War Games match for the men, the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa, and Sami Zayn versus the Brawling Brutes, which is Sheamus, Ridge, and Butch, and Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens. So this one right here has the makings of a classic, a built-in classic. Just seeing these superstars in a War Games match, like seeing Roman Reigns in a War Games setting, are you kidding me? We haven't seen that yet, so that's going to be absolutely beautiful. Kevin Owens has already been involved in one in NXT. You know the crowd's going to pop whenever his music hits. The entrances alone, the aesthetic of this match, it's going to be a barn burner, if I can quote Jim Ross. It's going to be one of those slobber knockers. It's going to be a hell of a match that I'm looking forward to, and I'm rolling with the Bloodline. I do think that this is, if any, a match that, the Bloodline can lose, because you can look at it like Sami Zayn with all the question marks going on right now. He could be the one that either gets pinned or costs them the match one way or the other. So you have to keep an eye out on that. But I do have confidence in the Bloodline still in the win here. They're hot. They get wins left and right. And why wouldn't they just get one here in a huge spot, which is the main event at a Survivor Series, for crying out loud. The 10th anniversary of Roman Reigns debuting at Survivor Series. Man, it's all right there. And they're probably going to touch on that a little bit. But that does do it for me here on the SmackDown review. I want to thank you guys for listening. As always, like I mentioned, it is a little bit late for me, just popping in here, doing this by myself immediately after SmackDown airs. But hey, this is cake when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Just getting to talk about wrestling with you guys, it is badass. It's a hell of an experience, and I do hope John gets back next week so we can talk about all this good stuff that happened on Survivor Series. Definitely tune into the preview and prediction show that Matt's dropping, and all of the other content that's going to be coming your way here on the WWE podcast. Subscribe to Patreon if you haven't already. Definitely a better listening experience all around. But with all that being said, enjoy Survivor Series, War Games, and all of the other sports that are coming your way. Walk passionately in the direction of your dreams, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.